Lights of flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Sager,
Here.
Bamberg,
Here.
Novine,
Here.
Hoffman,
Here.
Becher, McNally,
Here.
Turnbull,
Here.
Fleischer will be absent, Townsend,
Here.
Baker.
Here. Are there any changes or corrections to the agenda? There are no changes or corrections to the agenda, it will stand. Approval of the minutes from August 13th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of August 13th, 2014, regular meeting.
24 or 2014?
Don't worry, I'll second that, but I don't want to stutter like he did.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. There are no special orders. There are no requests to be on the agenda.
Oh,
Public?
we need approval of the agenda.
Yes, we do.
Make a motion to approve the agenda for today's board meeting for September 10, 2014. How am I doing?
Motion is made and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. I'm in the right spot here. First orders, there are none. Request to be on the agenda, there are none. Public comments once. Public comments twice. Public comments 3 times. If there are no public comments, that section of the meeting will be closed. New business. Beautification meeting update. Steve, you have a report for us on that?
Yes. Board members, if you'll just kind of bear with me in a couple of things, if I get lost in something, I'm going to be asking a couple people's help that have been helping me on a few things. That would be Township Manager Rose and Tanya from Spicer. Last week, so they may speak on behalf, they've been doing a little legwork for me on a couple of these items, and I appreciate it, thank you. Last week, Rose and myself had a meeting with Louise Davis, Karen Betcher, Jan Pope, and John Hoffman. And it was a great meeting, a lot of good things came out of the meeting. They're looking at possibly merging, being a subcommittee underneath the DDA. So, kind of like they would be dissolving their 501(c), dissolving their bank account, that type of stuff, and then coming underneath the DDA as a subcommittee. It was a great meeting. There was a lot of good things that were discussed in the meeting, but there was some unanswered questions from that meeting. And Rose got a hold of MTA to find out a few questions, and then they referred us to get some attorney opinions. And with you guys being a 501(c), it was brought up in the meeting that currently John Hoffman donates a certain amount of money to the Rock area. I know Daryl Baer contributes to that beautification committee, and the McNally Foundation also. And it was brought up about would they be able to write that off on their taxes, and being a 501(c), you cannot. It has to be a nonprofit organization, and even though we're not profit, but it's totally different. The DDA is not a 5013C. If Rose will help me out a little bit, she did talk to the gentleman at MTA, and also Norm Bamberger from our insurance company, and also I believe she has had a contact with the attorney. She asked me if we should get some legal advice, and I okayed her to do that. Rose?
Okay, on the 501c3 status, what the MTA, the gentleman I talked with there, stated that it would be appropriate to notify the state if they were going to dissolve. So if the subcommittee for the beautification was to dissolve, they would want to contact somebody and get information as to actually dissolving. And then also, I talked with the attorney further as far as the subcommittee coming under the DDA. MTA asked for clarification on that because they didn't want to give legal advice on that. Their comment was that there's not a clear answer to come under the DDA or under the township, so they feel it could go either way. They felt it was dictated by our insurance company. I have a call into Norm Bamberger right now, and I'm waiting to hear back from him, so I don't have an answer on what he recommends at that point, and it all has to do with liability.
I remember Louise thinking that if a citizen donates to the township for a specific project, that there's a tax opportunity. Is that what you said, Louise?
Yes.
Do we feel that's still in place?
I'm not really sure. I think that whenever you make a contribution to whatever, your own CPA, or like if I make a contribution to the church, or I make a contribution to whatever, I'm under the understanding that I would just let my CPA handle that, let me know whether or not I could write that off or not. I know you said that in the meeting, but I don't know where that originated from. So we've got some unanswered questions that before we go any further, we've got to get that stuff, so.
Can I say?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, I know, and the tax, IRS may have changed over the years. I do remember some years ago, the land back here, the other side of Fort Road, was given to the township by, starts with an S. No, not Lyle Davis, it was Shaheen and another man that owned much property in the township, and they gave it. And I do remember I wrote up the papers on it. We did, that was tax deductible, we gave them $100,000 tax deductible. They felt the land was worth that much.
Well, I do know that when John donated his land to the DDA, he was able to do something with his CPA. We just don't know about a cash donation or that type of stuff. Don't know that information.
I'd like to comment on that. Through MTA, what they had told me that it depends on the individual person's tax status, and that they would need to confirm that with the person that handles their taxes.
Pass the buck, pass the buck,
Yeah.
pass the buck.
Can a DDA become a 501(c)(3)?
No. Why? No.
Well, I don't know the exact answer, but you fall under a government, and 501c3 is a not-for-profit.
Churches are not 501(c) or C3, whatever they are, and they're nonprofit. You can donate to them and take the deduction. Why don't you ask our CPA? I know John uses the same CPA we do, and we do, I don't know who you do, the township uses Joe and Noah, I think. No, you do too, don't you?
Yes.
Yes, do we, what about you, Joe? You don't use that?
No. We could ask, I don't have a problem asking, but why don't, we could ask our, couldn't we ask Neil that?
We will.
would
So,
prob-
so we've just got
probably
some unanswered questions right now. I did bring up to the committee, and I can see both sides of, with the flower pots that we did as a DDA, and with them being short-funded through the beautification, if we could merge this, or not merge it, but have a subcommittee, it would be the DDA, maybe responsibility, the subcommittee would be Louise and John and Karen. I specifically asked that question, you guys aren't gonna go away from me, are you? Because if you go away, then I kinda, and even if they don't go away, I kinda see myself heading that project up with a subcommittee. And I don't know how much time is involved, and right now I'm pretty well running ragged between the 15 and 20 hours a week that I'm currently working for the DDA per week. A lot is happening. So that would kind of have to take a little bit of, we should take that in consideration if we do in fact ever do this, or are we able to do this? Because, it's, somebody's gotta follow through on things, you gotta get volunteers, you guys do a lot of work. And I'm just throwing that out right now, that I would give as much as I can, and, but if it's gonna be headed up as the DDA, is that responsibility gonna fall underneath me, or is it gonna be maybe a board member that is part of that subcommittee, and myself and Rose and Augie attend in there too? Those are things I think that we'll have to iron out once we get everything else ironed out.
Is it not true that you did the flower pots this year?
We did, the DDA did,
DDA did.
yeah. Well, the DDA purchased them through Abley's, and then I went out for
You went out
the
to
day
Labor.
that the day they were here and helped spread them out then, and then I know a couple times Augie went out twice, I went out with Augie to reposition them, but that was a learning experience, and I think that next year, if the DDA does the flower pots, I think we're gonna have a much clearer vision of kind of what we want, particularly if we do get the beautification involved too. We would have more heads putting it all together to make it look really nice and spread it out and stuff like that.
Okay, so we have some open questions on the deductibility of donations, beautification, if it becomes a subcommittee of the DDA.
Besides the deductible, or in the donation questions, I guess the committee kind of feels that they need to know if the DDA is ready for the committee to slide underneath it. The original reason that committee was created was because the township and the DDA wasn't doing anything at the time in the township, and there was a group of people that felt something needed to happen. So it feels like the process is changing, and if the DDA is gonna do a component of it, it's silly not to have one entity that's responsible for the whole program, I guess is one of the ways. So I guess, is the DDA even interested? Because before we spend any more money asking questions, we really should know if this is a way that we can proceed, or if we should just stop and be separate.
Well, the DDA has funded most of these projects in the last 5 or 6 years, either directly or indirectly. So I don't think it's a question if or not the DDA wants to participate. The question is how much time is going to be shifted to Steve. He said slide under the DDA, but we don't want you to go away. We want you to still do some of the work.
Well, and I don't think the committee has a problem with that. I just think the committee can make more progress in the community if it's affiliated with some organization other than ourselves. Because initially the committee wasn't developed to be flower people, we were developed to be streetscape. And so we don't mind being flower people at all, and we can continue being flower people, but the bigger goal still is to get streetscape in the community. So I think if the subcommittee can continue to meet and report to Steve if that's the way you want to do it. If we know we're going to need Steve, then we can tackle tasks and he goes and does his homework and come back and presents it to him, we would be doing the same thing and present it to him, and then he would then present it to the committee or the board.
Jeff, at one time, you were here at the same time I was, wasn't that what somebody wanted, is the DDA and the chamber and beautification come together?
Yep, it was John's idea, actually.
Okay.
So,
And we've been talking that for quite a few years. I myself don't have a problem with that.
yeah, I think it's a good idea too. A lot of work has been put on you four people, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and Jan, right? So, as long as you can, and you could coordinate the streetscape and the beautification part of it, as long as my bad taste doesn't have to be involved in it, so.
I would think one of the biggest issues right now would be they're presently a 501c3 and getting donations, foundations, whatever the case may be. And if they become part of the DDA and they're no longer a 501c3, then are they still gonna get those donations? Or that money's gonna be available?
You know, after I talked to you yesterday, Steve, I got to thinking, but some major money was given from the foundations to the ballpark through to the recreation. So, and I don't think that ran into any trouble, so I don't think this would be any different.
Okay. I don't see my CPA issue, okay.
What I did, so that everybody knows, I went to Daryl and Jeff and John Hoffman to see if we do merge and have this subcommittee, are they willing to continue to support? And all three of them are basically on board. So I wanted to, we discussed that in our meeting. And as long as we can get the right thing here, I think it's the perfect fit. But again, I'm just one individual, and I think we could really do the town some justice over a number of years and start getting that streetscape and stuff like that. So I think it's a good thing. But I just want to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row, because I don't want to see anything, I don't want to be held accountable for anything that we do that we should have not done.
So we should get an accountant's opinion before we go forward with any merging.
I think we need to get the accountant. I still think we need, Rose is working on the insurance, and then the final with the attorney. And if we can bring all three of those together and it would work, I would say as long as you guys, and I think it sounds like, yeah, you guys are all for it, it'd be no problem.
Rose,
Yes.
question. When we started this with Norm, I think it was Norm, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we kept going back and forth, and he had a problem because it wasn't under the township. So technically, he shouldn't have a problem, because now we're gonna be directed under the
A
township.
lot of his concern was liability because of the suits that the township's been in. So our sharing with Steve that personally, I don't think there's going to be an issue, but I'd like to hear that from him, that we don't have to do something special under the policy, under the DDA, to bring that group under.
Because if I'm not mistaken, he said that if it was ran through the DDA, or we wouldn't have an issue. I don't see us having a
Right.
problem.
I don't see us having a problem either. I just want to hear that from him.
Does beautification have its own insurance right now?
Not through the township. I think you guys have something monked on it.
What, to clarify that for you, Daryl, the concern was the rock area, and the beautification was carrying insurance on that area. If somebody were to go up on the rock, fall, a car comes through there, smashes up where, the beautification was carrying liability insurance for that. They did approach us a couple months ago, and we already got the grace from the board. Rose did the research with Norm Bamberger. He suggested that we not insure the rock, okay? That was just his suggestion. We had it here at the meeting, it's in the minutes. Rose and I felt as though, and the board felt as though, it's under our umbrella, and so we went ahead and insured the rock, okay? Hoping that nothing happens, nothing's happened in the past. But again, Norm did not, am I right,
That's fine.
recommend the DDA taking that under their insurance.
Is that because that was on county property?
Well, it's on MDOT property.
MDOT property?
Yeah.
It's on MDOT property, and also it was really done by, the work was all done by Beautification. So there's several people involved.
Because we can take the complications away.
Right, and we all got to keep, remember, Norm works for us, we don't work for Norm.
Correct.
No, in the rock, and unless it's specifically excluded from your liability policy, which I don't think it was, they're gonna cover it, they don't have a choice, you know, it's a, you know, I don't know whether Norm's trying to minimize their risk or what, but unless it's specifically excluded, we're covered.
Well, and that's basically what Rose told me too. I mean, we had a quite lengthy discussion on it, and we talked to, and we don't wanna see that rock go away. We like everything down there, and we're gonna handle the insurance.
And if they're gonna exclude it, there's other insurance companies.
That's right.
There. My gosh.
Why is it automatically included on MDOT property?
Well, if we're sued, they're gonna cover it. They're gonna cover the suit.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's automatically included, but
But they have it as an addition, like it's a
It's in
part of our
We're covered.
property.
Yeah.
it sure should be.
And then the other liability insurance that the beautification has, I think, is on your individual stuff, and they're currently paying their own policy for that. That would fall, I believe, underneath our policy too. But again, we're waiting from Norm.
So as a subcommittee of the DDA, there's already rules in our DDA thing for subcommittees, so we just follow the same protocol?
You know, I would think that Frankenmuth would have those same type of problems. And, you know, they're so close, isn't there some way that we could find out how they run their system? Because you can see then from the Frankenmuth paper, that once or twice a year, they list all the people that donated to it. And I don't know whether they were just $5 donations, or if they were, you know, some that delivers, you know, gives thousands of dollars, or something like that, but wouldn't an easy phone call, whether it's the manager, whether it's Sheila Stamaris, you know, she's, I don't know what she is, something with beautification, and just get some kind of a meeting there, or somebody to talk, how they tie it together with their insurance and so on. Would that be, you know, you run to your, I don't know whether the insurance companies, whether somebody you just individually talk to, they got that all ironed out ahead of time, don't they? Isn't that something that?
I'm sure that we can contact Frankenmuth and Bertrand and ask their DDA, and we meet with them regularly.
All right, we'll get more information, bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay. If there's nothing more on beautification, let's complete new business and move on to old business. And first topic here is Canoe Launch, and Steve, you got a report for that?
Yeah, I'm gonna have Tanya help me on that, and also if Bill would like to speak. There was a resolution passed at the board meeting last week, and the township donated $10,000 to that project. I'll let Tanya talk a little bit about that. The grants have been kind of tweaked a little bit, or they will be, and she thought as though if we're seeking funding from the McNally Foundation, for example, and other foundations, the DDA has already contributed, that it would be a strong bullet point to have the township. So they did, at the last meeting, approve $10,000 for Bill in the Parks and Rec towards the project. And I think that they're going to have both launches, handicap accessible and stuff like that, right? So
What the change was basically is that Bill called me a couple weeks ago, and him and Rose had been talking, and they wanted, originally we had the launch out here was gonna be a floating platform with a canoe launch roller thing on it, and the other one was gonna be just a concrete ramp down to the water. We did a field visit, and we went and saw the floating launch in Frankenmuth, and we went and saw the one in Tuscola, which is a concrete ramp down to the water. And I think there was some further discussion that they wanted both to be the floating launch type. And so we switched the one at the Hoffman property, increased the cost so that that will also have the floating launch piece to it. They passed a resolution. What has to happen at this time is, normally the DNR would send out a preliminary score and an opportunity to change or supplement your application. Those will be out, as of late last week, they said another 2 weeks. So, and then they're due back on October 10th. At that time, I didn't know those dates, but typically they've always been due back October 1st. And Bill and I scrambled quick to change that estimate and have the board pass a resolution so that you're ready to make that change when that opportunity comes out in a couple weeks. And then I had a discussion with Mike Tate about, I think he sits on the McNally Foundation. Anderson Foundation. Just, kind of talked about it. And he said, we really wouldn't look at this if we didn't see the township putting some money towards this. And so we thought it was best to have the township put some seed money in, so they put $10,000 towards it. Bill went with, and visited the WIN group, and he's got $20,000 for WIN now, so he's on his way to getting it all funded.
Letters and the actual maps of the designs of the both launches have gone out to Anderson Foundation, McNally Foundation, Wicks Foundation, and there was 4 of them that I sent out. Wicks, McNally.
Wicks and Link.
What was it?
Wicks and Link.
The Wicks Foundation.
Those go out today?
They went out Friday last week.
I didn't see it.
I was gonna talk to you.
So we're moving forward on the Canoe Launch, and Bill's doing a great job, and hopefully it's all gonna come together nice.
I have a question. On that floating dock, that would have to be something taken out in the winter, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, do you remember what happened with the first floating dock? What was that about? We had one up there someplace that was taken out in the spring.
I'm unfamiliar with that job. I don't know.
Yeah, it was before your days was here.
The dock that Frank Ruth has is a floating dock system. They actually had somebody make wheels that they put underneath the dock system. They pull it out with a tractor. It's really neat how it all works. And that's, I'm gonna find out who made those wheels for them and get the same exact thing for us.
If you want to look at what the floating launch looks like, the one in Frankenmuth is behind the Kern Pavilion, down off of Heritage Park. So, the blue and white striped, huge pavilion down there. It's on the river, right behind that. And the only difference will be their launch roller thing is perpendicular to the shore. Yours will be parallel to the shore. They did that because they have that big river boat that goes through there.
John, is your worry that it will get taken out like it's supposed to and not be damaged?
Well, that's what I'm thinking about. Where does the liability come? Just, hey, I'm on the beautification committee, but, I'm not next year and I'm not thinking of this. Where's the responsibility of the township to make that happen?
That'd be Parks and
That's my
Rec, that'd be
Parks and
Bill's,
Rec.
that would be Bill's area,
That's my responsibility, make sure those are taken out every year.
and he answers to Rose.
And the dock does say it takes some fluctuation. There will be a gangway on it that fluctuates up and down. And there's also a safety cable that ties it back to shore in case it pops loose. It has one more, thing to hold it so it doesn't float downstream.
Taking that out has an annual expense with it then because of the people time it's gonna take to take that out and secure it properly along the shores. Especially when it floods, it's gonna have to be up high enough so it doesn't float away.
Yeah.
Why is a floating dock better than a fixed dock then?
Now, fixed dock is going to cost you a lot more money. If you want something fixed, you're gonna have to drive piles. And
Fixed.
it's
And
not
that'll
gonna,
have to come out every year too, won't it?
Fixed
What's
dock.
that?
Fixed dock can't come out.
fixed dock, if you drive piles, can't come out. If you did like a skid pier, that would have to come out every year, but you can't, you know,
Well, that'd be a concrete deck then.
you might do it wood deck with, you know, it just has like skis on the bottom of it, so you skid it in.
I work with, one of my businesses, we have a boat launch, and working with the DNR and DEQ with that cement launch is not fun. You have to get, if you want to repair a crack or something, you gotta get approval from them, and you're looking at months.
I think one of the things that John's worried about is that it's Bill's responsibility, and then when Bill leaves the committee, then, oh, that responsibility can get passed on, and so it's kind of the same with the rock, you know, if we go under the DDA, somebody needs to know that there's an irrigation system that has to be blown out in the winter, and so I think what he's hoping for is like this beautiful community calendar that has all the to-dos for each department, so the beer truck theory happens, and Bill gets hit by a beer truck, and I get hit by a beer truck, and John gets hit by a beer truck, somebody knows what to do. Is that what you're looking for, John?
Well, it's basically, you know, what it's all about.
Well, and I
drink.
I really think that, I know exactly what John's looking at, but Daryl made the statement in about 3 meetings ago when all this took place, that this is not just a Parks and Rec project, that this is going to the DDA. He didn't want to see that just as a Parks and Rec. He wanted to blend DDA and that it's all of our project. Am I right, Daryl? That was in our meeting in minutes at one of the things. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit involved with the Canoe Launch, is because I got the transaction done with John, I'm working with Tanya and Bill. So we got, you're exactly right, we got more than Bill having to worry about all this. Ultimately, it's gonna come under his responsibility as Parks and Rec, and when, getting back to your question, when he has to pull it out, if there's a charge, I'm sure that's gonna come out of his budget, okay? But I'm staying involved with it a little bit, just so that we got that marriage between the whole township and the community working well together.
And the companies who sell this type of system, you can hire them to come, you know, if something were to happen to Bill or whatever, or it just became too cumbersome, you can hire the company to come in and put it in and take it out for you. I think they charge about $600, and, you know, for,
Yeah.
you know, you or I as a personal person, that might seem
They
expensive,
will
but,
do, no, they will do that.
yeah.
But they also will, if you allow them to advertise,
Yeah,
they will take it in and out for no charge, that's what I think.
well,
If you allow them to advertise that.
yeah, we're putting in 2 into it right now, and the $600 is the cost that they, you know, they threw out, said it'll be about $600.
A
So
year.
it's a real cost today, and,
Let's put it in and take it out for $600.
Yeah, it's a yearly cost, they just come in with whether
Okay,
it's,
they advertise for a sign, or they advertise for their sign, you might.
they advertise mine, they have a sign right on the front of it, so when you pull up in a boat or a canoe or something, they see the name. That's why they advertise, it's not a big sign trail on the platform.
By the way, I stood on 3 of your docks last week. I went up and visited your new crop record. Very nice.
Thank you.
But I think you might still be missing the opportunity for all of us to be organized. Like the plantings need to be on that, you know, it's like a, Rose, you know what I'm talking about?
But don't that fall into your subcommittees?
No, there's gotta be like one calendar that says, in October, by this date, this should happen, by this date, this should happen. And, I mean, for our company, I have like a to-do calendar, and all this is on there is things that have to be done. Flu clinic's in October, so it's on in August, so that I know I have to get my advertising ready, you know what I'm saying? And it feels like with all technology, our
Is there a township calendar, Rose?
should be able to do that. Not one that's published, but that's just kind of between, you know what I'm asking?
We all have our individual calendars, so I would have mine, Steve would have it on his, Bill would have it on his, DPW, Ruthann would have it on hers, because she also follows through with Bill, make sure backings are all winterized in the winter, springtime, they're all taken care of, same with the Anderson complex, so
Okay.
it's not like it was years ago where we didn't have that, we've got that capability now, so I don't see that it would be a concern.
I don't see an issue at all.
The people would put that in. They would be the ones that would also do it. Okay, do you know where the launch is going? Do you know where that's going in the
At
river?
that time, when they're all done, they will work right with Spicer's or whoever sets it all up. They have to have, because you have to have boundaries, you have to have measurements from DENR.
Right, and they will come in, the initial installation, they will install it for you, and Bill and Ruth Ann, or whoever else needs to be there that's gonna take it out, they'll train you as they put it in, and they'll, I think for the first year, they'll even come and help you take it out.
Okay, Bill, you know roughly where it's gonna go, right?
Yeah, good idea.
Can you do some primary work so we know whether this is a $2,000, pull it out? Because once you pull it out where I think it's going, it'll still be on flooded land. It'll be in the floodplain, it'll freeze in there, and the ice and everything could take it out if we just leave it, pull it out of the river. And so if you have to pull it up on some dry land, then whose land is it? Just anybody? That's another. Is it private land you gotta pull it up on? Or you gotta haul it 3 miles? And it's just a preliminary thing that you should have studied.
I think you've had
I'm
some discussions with Darren and Frankenmuth.
Yeah, I've talked to Darren and Frankenmuth about how they do theirs, and also, because they just take theirs out, and they put it underneath the pavilion right there, and that all floods, and they chain it to the pavilion so it doesn't float away, that type of thing. I'm just waiting for the corn to go out down there, John. Once he takes that corn out, and I plan on going down there and really doing some surveying of where the highland is and where it's not, and all of that. And if need be, then, we haul it back to the island where it's higher, or, we store it over in the fenced-in area at the DPW building or something. But those roads will cross, and, those will be taken into account.
But that also, John, has to meet the DNR requirement and all their setback, everything. So they're basically, we can have kind of a vision where we think it's gonna go, but ultimately, when the DNR gets the grant and everything, they're gonna be right there with specifics and specs and everything. Am I under?
Well,
I mean,
they have, DEQ,
DEQ.
DNR, we'll have to follow all of that,
All
but
that
I don't think
guidelines.
they'll have much say about location.
Okay, we got a lot
pretty
of
much pick-
players that are involved in
They'll be
determining,
involved
trying
in
to get this thing
permitting
on the
and-
water and secured and so on. Let's let the players that are on board sort this out and handle these.
Yep.
Okay, that concludes the canoe launch for this meeting. Let's move on to the public meeting update for 4422 Williamson. Steve, you got a report on this?
Yeah, all of you know that we purchased the property next to the bridge there. And Tanya and I are doing site evaluations of what we want to go in there, or at least get some proposals to the board. There was stuff going out about Facebook that some residents, some citizens would like to see it restored back to the old gas station motif, whatever. We had a meeting at our last DDA meeting. A couple of you weren't here for that, but we invited the public to come in and talk about the refurbishing and ask questions, and that was able for you guys to ask them questions, and nobody showed. It was brought up that maybe we should have an evening meeting. So we had an evening meeting on September 3rd, which was a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, and we published it, and we had Carla over here and her mother was the only ones that attended, other than 4 of the board members sitting there. We had 4 DDA members. Our township supervisor attended, our township manager attended, a couple of board members attended. Tanya Moore from Spicer was there, Bill was there, and Carl Hammond, who is the one that would really like to spearhead it. His father was, I believe, the second owner of that gas station, and then ultimately sold it in 1977. The meeting was fabulous. There was a lot of great discussion, and There are some avenues which we can take, and that being by the historic bridge, and in that historic 1930s or whatever, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'll let you talk a little bit too, but there is, if we took that front building, and there are pictures here, and Carl also had some pictures, Tanya has those, but basically they're these, and we made that outside look like a gas station, like it looked over here. You go back into your historic preservation, like what we did the bridge, there's a possibility that we could take the inside and have that all as a restroom. Augie had brought up the second building that's out there, maybe we keep one wall of that building if we needed to, but pavilions and grills and picnic tables and restrooms and a lot of different things were discussed at this meeting. And if we could preserve, correct me if I'm wrong, if we could preserve the front of that building with memorabilia and stuff like that to look like the old gas station, there is an opportunity that we could get this all funded through grants money. Okay, right?
Yeah, you would dip in, you have the possibility of dipping into 3 or 4
Yeah, there's a few different
areas.
sources, and I think if we were to preserve that building, my thought is that you could possibly tap into, it's called MDOT Transportation Alternatives. It's the same grant that funded the bridge, but it would be creative about how you put the spin on it, because you've got to put the transportation spin on how you write the grant. And I think being an old gas station, there could be some creative language put there. And I equate it to a grant. When I worked for the city of Lansing, we wrote a grant for an arch that, how did that get funded by MDOT? And how is that transportation related? But it was the park and the arch were developed by William Durant, who was the founder of General Motors. And so we put the creative spin on it. We got it funded, and I think this is a similar case where you categorize it into historic preservation and talk about how it's related to transportation. But it would be neat to see the building facade brought back, and I guess the way I picture it is maybe there, the facade, and then there's maybe a wall behind it, and you put some memorabilia up so you can see it through the windows, and then inside you would have your restrooms. So just one idea, but.
If we tear it down and just get rid of it, we lose the opportunity for any kind of grant or any kind of funding. If we can preserve it back, at least the front of the building, with that historic stuff like you're saying, there's an opportunity to get a handicap accessible restroom, a pavilion, some picnic tables, tied into the bridge area at very to little no cost through grant writing. This Carl Hammond, he was a very nice guy, very knowledgeable about the building, came off very nice. I was quite impressed, and I was impressed with a lot of the questions that our board members and town board members and managers and supervisors asked him. So if we want to move ahead on this project, have time to move ahead on it, obviously we need some money. We need some city money to start now applying for the grant and putting things together, right?
Well, I didn't put grant writing in that proposal. I put just coming up with a conceptual layout and a 3D rendering and some costs. And then we can determine how we want to move forward from there.
But also in that, it was suggested that we keep in mind for future growth. And you have that in your plan.
Yeah, that'll all be in that conceptual.
Or further?
Yes. Yeah.
So you have a bid in front of you, Steve?
I have, Tanya just dropped off here, putting that conceptual plan together. There's about 3 pages here. It would be $3,100 for Spicer to do the initial legwork and then bring that back to the DDA board, and then the DDA board would decide whether or not we want to go that route.
What's the timeline involved in that kind of process with that bid?
I mean, we can work on that conceptual plan this fall, and an MDOT, if you wanted to go for the MDOT grant, it's a rolling calendar, so I think you can submit anytime. I think they act on their grants about 3 or 4 times a year.
And then if we were to pursue, the granting option, can you ballpark what that cost might be?
It depends on what we decide to do. I think that your conceptual plan and your cost estimates will already be there, so it will just be putting the grant and the write-up in the MDOT system, so, yeah, I don't know, 4,000 plus or minus. Let's put all that together.
And do you feel that there'd still be a community, or a township input of finances for that, or would it be 100%? Did you say 100%? I don't remember. I mean, because the bridge wasn't 100%, so there'd be some.
You can do it either way, township or DDA, or a
Yeah,
combination.
we would have
or-
to do some type of a matching,
Okay.
fund.
What was our percentage, the
Your-
bridge and the?
I don't remember what the percentage was, but the MDOT grant is a minimum 20% match. But
That's what I thought.
to be competitive, usually if you only commit 20%, it's an unwritten rule that you're probably not gonna get funded. They're probably gonna come back and ask you to go to about 35% as a minimum.
And I guess what I'm trying to get closer to, Tanya, is let's say that we wanted to pursue this project. Do we feel 40,000 is kind of gonna be where we're at? Do you think it's gonna be closer to 60?
I don't know without figuring out how much it's gonna cost to restore the building and put those estimates together, I don't know.
I mean, I know where she's coming from, I don't see how you could throw out a dollar sign without having that, I mean,
So
you
we
have
have
to
to
get
spend
quotes.
31 to find out if we're in the game.
That would be the conceptual plan that would come to us, and, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also that, Carl Hammond has memorabilia, he would be actively involved at no charge. He's done some grant writing and stuff like that, so,
Some of the memorabilia that we talk about putting up there too, I know he has some, and I know he just said his cousin thinks he has an old gas pump that he might donate, but if we wanted to put some of that memorabilia out there, like, and I equate it to artwork or, then that might be a cost that has to be considered as well.
Steve, where would you take that?
we're gonna come out of the budget.
Yeah.
DDA plan projects,
Okay, we have 5,000 in there,
that would come out to 971.002. We've already spent, we had 5,000 budgeted, we've already spent 11,850.
I see it.
But we all knew that because of some of the other things that we have done.
Maybe the non-motorized trail network?
Your non-motorized trail network, I don't think we can get into that one. Isn't that a committed fund?
That, I think that was so that we could study the future routes
Yeah.
for the,
But I mean, I think that is one that well, let me see. They're around the back. You don't have the other one? I have it. I think, well, you can, your non-motorized trail is a committed fund, and there's $15,000 in that. And then you have your maintenance on your bridge, which always gets carried over year to year, $11,500. And then your committed village square frontage, State and Baker is $5,000. You can move some of that money, but
I wouldn't move your bridge maintenance.
no.
Because that was always set aside that, you set
Correct.
aside 5,000 a year. Then when you need to repaint it, which should be in about 2011, 2016, you would have that money available to do that.
And I guess my thing is whether you're spending it out of A, B, C, or D, you're still spending it. If we put it into the planned DDA projects and we just up our budget, or we have Tammy make a journal entry, it's still money wherever. I'd like to keep the motorized trail one because of what Birch Run's doing with their trolley trail and stuff like that. I would really like to keep that money where it's been allocated and committed for at this point. So if we put it under DDA planned projects, that's just gonna increase, it's a planned project, and it would be, and I've been logging those in the computer of everything that we do, kind of like what Karen, you know, all the hard copies are right there and everything of what we've actually done out of each of these categories.
So what was the general consensus from the meeting? Was it a project that everybody felt is something that should be considered, or?
I felt that. Did you feel that?
I felt that.
Rose?
Definitely.
Augie? Yeah. Daryl was there, yeah. John and Barry both were there.
And if all goes well, is the timeline like spring of next year, or is it 2016?
I think you're probably looking, construction-wise, I think you're probably looking at 16. Because if you put these conceptual plans together, then you apply for the grant, and then there's a process for that to be approved and design. We'll probably have to permit it because you're right next to the river, so.
And then there was some talk about too, like, right by the river there, putting a fishing platform out there so that they could fish right off the docks right there as a regular platform. There's a lot of things that were discussed. It was a very, very good meeting. Now it's just a matter of bringing you guys back some type of plan and then moving forward. I think 2016 is realistic. Currently I have Ruth Ann trying to get the place winterized. We have a bee problem. You can't even get in the door of the older part of the building, so we have to bring in a pest control. I mean, it's just swamp. They're all over. They're all over the building. They're all over everywhere. So, but we're going to winterize that building. I go down there weekly. There's been no vandalism, no nothing. Things are pretty good. So I'd say it'd be 2016.
So can I make a motion then to proceed with the $3,100 to have Spicer start the what kind of plan?
Conceptual plan for 4422 Williams.
Did you do that?
I did.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to fund a conceptual design of the old gas station. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
I'll just leave them here and make it.
Let's move on to the I-75 billboard.
Okay, at our last meeting, all of you said that that is a priority. The sign is fading. I want to keep that sign in the DDA possession. Mike Sukent wants it for something else. I said, no, it's not going to. Daryl had brought up that, or a couple of you board members, that the bridge, you know, the #1 restored bridge in the state of Michigan. Before you guys leave, there are some beautiful pictures here that I had Stephanie from Hillier Studio take some pictures, and there's also some from Tanya. They're all in color. Some of them, you look at it, you're looking at the bridge this way. You're probably going to get a better view of the bridge going this way because that's the way the sign runs, and it'll be expanded out more. But there are some beautiful shots there. So if you guys want to give any of your input when is there 3 or 4 of each one?
There's 4.
4 of each one. If you want to stop by, take a look at them. Then at that point, if we can all kind of agree on that, Tanya and I will come up with some type, visit historic Bridgeport, #1 bridge, whatever we may do to get that lettering on there. Then I can take that and get that cost, which was going to be around $3,000 from Swartz Graphics. But I remember at the last meeting, I think it was Ron, and a couple of you said that that is a priority, and so we're working on that. So Stephanie didn't charge me anything for the prints, and went out and took some amazing shots. Some of them were earlier, and I think some of them are more current. So as to sum it up, we're moving forward on that. Well, I can only get in there twice a year. I gotta get a hold of that guy. The fall is the best. If I could try and get it done yet for this year, would be the goal. If not, it might have to be right after winter, or spring, but I have to get a hold of the gentleman, and John, I believe you know his name, or I know Jan Crane could give me his name, or I could look it up. I can have, someone look it up for me. And we gotta get the name of that farmer, because he only allows us to go on his property like twice a year. But that's something I could have Jamie look at too, give me his number and get a hold of him, and I would personally go out and set a meeting with him and go to his home, or invite him over here, let him know what's kind of going on. So once I get that window frame from him, then boom, we gotta get it to Swartz Graphics.
Okay, is there any questions of Steve regarding the billboard? Any more discussion? That concludes the I-75 billboard update. And the 2015 budget is meeting scheduled for September 17th for the budget committee.
Yep, that's all. I have the worksheets already. I have everything where we've allotted monies that we spent, all coded. I have all of you guys a worksheet, and it should go pretty fast. And we are going to reduce our budget by about $30,000 from last year, because the personal property tax went away, and we capture dollars from businesses for personal property tax. So I got the formula from Tracy and from Amanda. We will get that money back. That money will come back from the state, but when and where, we had to send, I believe, an application in, and Amanda's already done that. But I really think we should realistically lower our budget a little bit to offset that personal property taxes, and then when it comes in, we have the money.
Does that money come back to the DDA or to the township?
It comes back to the township, but we get our percentage back.
We do.
Yeah. All monies that are collected go to the township, we get our percentage for the DDA, and then we would get our percentage for the personal property taxes.
Doesn't matter, personal property tax sort of way.
Okay. That concludes.
So that meeting is for the, I believe Karen and you and myself, Rose, I think Roberta came, at 9 o'clock on the 17th.
Okay.
You got coffee?
Why'd you have to say that?
Okay, that concludes the 2015 budget discussions for this meeting. Let's go on to the DDA Sidewalks.
That was brought up several months ago, and I took it off the, if we're not gonna talk about it at the meetings, I take it off until I think it's the most appropriate time to talk about it. All of you aware that I met with Birch Run and told you what they do, and Jim, you also met with Frankenmuth. We discussed what they do on the DDA district and how much that $100,000 piece of equipment, remember that, Jim? Okay. You guys wanted me to go ahead and do research on other townships. I got a hold of Steve, who is the township manager and the DDA coordinator from Kochville. Businesses and residents take care of their own sidewalks. There's no sidewalk ordinance as of yet, but they do not have a lot of foot traffic in that area. They have a lot of businesses, but they don't have a lot of foot traffic. They do have a walking path, and they keep expanding that, but the DDA, particularly last year with all the snow, started plowing that last year, and DDA absorbs that cost. I talked to Josh Adams, a Wasso DDA coordinator. They have 17 blocks of businesses and residents in their DDA district. All are to take care of their own sidewalks. If they don't take care of their sidewalks, township goes out, takes care of their sidewalks, and charges them. So I've talked to 4 different townships. I think I got enough research work done. And also over at Bader Brothers, if we were going to do sidewalks this year, and not charge people and take care of some of those that I believe some of the board's members were concerned about last year. And if we bought the same piece of equipment that Birch Run is purchasing currently, you're looking at $33,790, roughly probably $35,000. To buy the equipment that would also be a lawnmower, would also, could be used for multiple things, because I believe Daryl had brought that question up of, is it just, it can be used for cutting grass, snow plowing, all that stuff. Personally, I don't think we have it in the budget with some of these other planned things that we've got going. To spend $35,000 on a piece of equipment.
Is there a township ordinance that they have to take care of their own sidewalks? I think we should quit talking about it.
Yeah, but there's
I
a
agree.
component about the fine that I think is in a bad topic. Because I don't know, do you guys see those little people walking down Williamson and all the snow on the sidewalk? Wow. They're not super little, but they're people that are supposed to have dry feet when they get to class.
Well, I'm for it. I'm for, Paul Moore, they don't do the whole village. They do some of the main components. And I believe that was one of Augie's concerns, was kids getting to school, or in some of that DDA district where they're trudging through all that snow and stuff like that. I think this is how it all came to light. Again, I'm for keeping the sidewalks clear. And if we have to tweak and we have to find it, is the money there? Yeah, we'd have to tweak on a few things and put our priorities in line.
Well, there's a downside option.
But you're talking about going down Williamson, that's not even the DDA district, is it?
Part of it is.
Part of it is, and then there's the part, all of this, on out here from Bearcat to State, that's not always done either.
Who's gonna run the equipment?
Well, and I'm not saying we should spend $33,000, I'm saying that if it's in our ordinance, that we should find someone if they don't do it. And then we'll get enough money to pay the $33,000.
Enforce it.
Yeah, let's just, have a little backbone out there. I don't know. You're gonna have grumpy no matter what.
Part of the problem you run into with that is the fact of the manpower now. If you were to start fining people for not plowing their sidewalks, where do you stop? There's lots of sidewalks in Bridgeport, and I don't believe that we can say that we're gonna find the people on Williamson or Dixie if they don't do their walks, without finding the ones on Power Line or Dixie Court or whatever. So, that's quite an issue in itself. How many people would we need to hire, Rose, to cover all the sidewalks and all the paperwork? And
We
that's
have
the
manpower
tough
to
thing
do
about
that.
enforcing some of those ordinances is the manpower. It's not, the backbone is there that you talk about. I mean, the things are in line to do it. Now, how do we do it? You gotta have manpower. You gotta have a lot of man hours.
That's a very good question. What was the design of the original ordinance that had a fine built into it? At some point, there was an expectation that they were gonna be able to apply the fine.
I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that,
How far do you?
what do you do with the person that comes in and says, hey, I just got fined and the guy's 2 blocks over, or whatever the case may be, they didn't get fined, how come?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
You have a billing nightmare too.
Well, I mean, it just goes on, and that's the thing that people don't think about, because you're not directly involved a lot of times. With this happens, and there's ramifications here and here and here and here and here.
But for schools, isn't it say that if you live within a mile away, your student is responsible to walk? Is that still the thing? Well, just let it go.
if we were to do something like this, would that then fall under, would Ruth Ann make those decisions when we go out and do that? And then would Chris and Jared and them, we would get billed, right? For them going out to do that?
That's correct. We would have to hire somebody or we'd have to send our staff out.
Yeah.
Those found a community volunteer with us, we'll get it done.
So if we, let's just, so if I listen to what we're saying, that 33,000 is only a portion of what we would really have to fork if we would even go down that avenue to.
Yeah, well, that would buy your equipment, Darrell. And I'm gonna say it's 33,700 something, so just say 35,000. That would just get you your piece of equipment.
Right, then we're gonna have to find manpower, and if that person operates at a DDA, so that fund, to fund that person's gonna come out of the DDA.
Right.
So you could be looking at 50,000.
Easily.
That is correct. And the DDA right now also pays towards weed cutting any of the properties that's in the DDA district, or if we have properties that property owners don't maintain, and we bill the property owners and they don't pay it, eventually comes back to the DDA. So it's definitely a manpower issue that
It
you
is,
have,
yeah.
the timing.
Well, we run into the same thing with blight. Now, it would be nice if we could get every property in Bridgeport in pristine condition and not have any situations where the property looks ugly or doesn't meet codes or whatever. Again, we don't have the manpower, so they try and address the worst situations, ones that we get complaints about, that kind of thing, and that's tough for them to keep up with, so it's just very tough. Had somebody offer to put some garbage in my front yard that wasn't picked up as quick as they thought it should be, so, you know, I didn't think that was a good idea. Anyway. Something to think
That
about.
blight issue is, we talked recently of the sidewalk at King, between the apartment complex and Dixie.
Mhm.
And I know the sidewalk has to be patched to do that. But the people that foot traffic from the apartment complex to that gas station think that that their whiskey bottles and their pop containers and their wrappers and their bags from food and so on belong in the ground in between those two places.
Well,
That's not, it's not fair to say, make that kind of remark, because not all of those people, when I
That's
see
true.
people with amigos and that kind of stuff, they're probably not running over to Liquor King to buy a bottle of booze. Maybe they are, but it's really not fair to paint that wide brush.
There are some residents there that do that without.
I
Could
agree.
be people driving down the road too, but when you go to the next.
Jim, should we vote on this to see if this, some board members are for it, some board members are for not? So I think we should have a vote on it or something, whether to do away with it this year and look at it next year, whatever.
We don't have to vote if it's not
Or-
a motion then.
Just no action on it.
No action on it. But if somebody wants action, they can make a motion right now too. Okay.
do we not want to do action, or do we want to, I mean, I know there's a lot on your plate, but do we want, I think we need to study it. I don't think we just drop it. But we gotta, and this is not it's not just the DDA, it's also the township, but we need to do a total look at what can we do. All right? Can we address it with some of our businesses that they do shovel or snowplow or address their sidewalks? I mean, we need to work towards this.
There's also a lot of other pieces of equipment out there that are a whole lot cheaper than just plow snow. If you want to keep it red, you could buy just one-man rider with a snowblower built on the front, and they work good down the sidewalks.
My point is,
Yeah.
to me, the machine is only a small portion.
Right.
I said 20,000, but really I think we're gonna have more, probably 30 to 40,000 in manpower to get it all done. I think we need to look at it. Don't just sweep it underneath the rug. I think we need to study it and investigate it.
So you're thinking this winter, keep an eye on things?
Right, and see what.
Track
what is it doing?
Track what's
Can
going on.
we talk to
have it-
companies, businesses? I know a lot of the local businesses are addressing that and getting better. All right, maybe if we have a talk with them, you know, what can we do to encourage them? I know a lot of us are doing it and we go further than what we should, but I think we need to work together as Township, DDA, et cetera, all of us, just to see what can we do, not just sweep underneath.
Okay.
I don't, and you know, we're all gonna have grandkids and they're gonna be, I don't want my little guy climbing over a snow pile before he crosses the sidewalk or something.
Well, and the information that I've already got, you know, I'll just hang on to, we'll look at it this year. And getting back to you as far as the equipment, I don't know anything, I hire my stuff done, so I don't know the first thing about the piece of equipment.
You see little
So if
riders,
this,
that one-man riders. that
yeah,
go
if this
straight down
work
the
didn't
sidewalk.
work and we want to go to something else, I would want some expertise from somebody to say what kind of piece of equipment. I would not just feel comfortable going out, just because Paul Moore's getting this piece of equipment, doesn't mean that we have to get this piece of equipment.
We also have to keep in mind too, when we buy a piece of equipment, that we're not doing it, we're not buying it to do our driveway. You know, you're gonna be many miles of sidewalks and whatever, so you have to buy something heavy duty and this will last a long time.
Well, and this is the piece of equipment that they bought, and it lasted them, I believe, I think I said 14 years or something, and now they're getting their new piece of equipment. So,
I want to throw this out, I'm also throwing this out for the township to listen to, that, all right, if the township is going to go buy a piece of equipment here, all right, in a year or two, replace the lawnmowers, all right, why don't you talk to the DDA or talk to us, let us know, okay, maybe we only have to pay a portion. You understand what I'm saying? If the township's going to spend some money on the new lawnmowers, okay, maybe we can partner up and have a more of a blower.
have one that can do multiple things.
Right.
And that way too, then the township would pay portion of the employee, whatever, that did plowing, if it was areas that
Multi-use.
the township wanted to have plowed or whatever.
Same thing for Parks and Rec. I'm only gonna say this, I'm not thinking about today, I'm not thinking about next year, I'm thinking about future. We have a Canoe Launch equipment, how are we gonna plow it? I mean, how are we gonna dress stuff down there, how are we gonna mow it? You know, so are we gonna need more equipment down there for mowing and stuff like that? So I'll say, let's keep our thinking caps on, look at the total picture here.
Multi-use, multi-department, multi-everything.
Along that same line, and I don't wanna open a can of worms, but your DPW already has equipment. I don't know if some of it could be retrofitted and you buy the retrofitted part, you know, the sweeper or the
Correct.
plow, and the state has rental rates, so you're gonna be, the DDA would be charged the time
Yep.
for the person. You could also be charged the rental rate, which is set by the state for the equipment
Right.
that you already have.
Let's put our thinking
Right.
caps on,
Okay.
and think for future.
Rose and I'll sit down on that if you want to.
Okay, that concludes the sidewalk snow discussion. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion, to go into closed session to talk about properties.
Right.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Bamber,
Yes.
Robine,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Batchor,
Yes.
Bayer,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Turnbull,
Yes.
Townsend,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we're going.
We go in there, so
I move we come out of closed session, we come back in open session.
Support.
Motion's been made and seconded to come out of closed session. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Bamber,
Yes.
Robine,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Bayer,
Yes.
Batchor, Hatcher,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Turnbull,
Yes.
Townsend,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to have DDA coordinator to proceed what we discussed in closed session.
Support.
Didn't get a roll call on this, do we? Motion been made to carry out the decisions we made. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Steve, you got anything to add, or did you
Yes.
include all that?
Under, that's it, just DDA coordinator's report, and
Yes.
I'm done. Great Lakes Discovery Center, the survey has been done by Spicer. It's on its way to Minneapolis. I talked to Jason yesterday, and that's the last component that they're waiting for, and he's gonna try and get us on, they got a lot of surveys that they gotta do, but he's gonna try and get us on that docket, so as soon as he gets it, turns it over to his survey department, 60 to 120 days, we should have that whole thing set aside and done. And I told him, don't quit or get transferred till we get it closed. It's been 18 years. Christmas decorations, all of you know we planned on ordering Christmas decorations for this upcoming Christmas. They were supposed to be here in July. Well, no July, no August. I've been going round and round. Actually, I shouldn't say that. They've been very, very good at display sales. There's a couple of them that are on back order, and they didn't think we would get them in our possession until November, and I said, that's not gonna work. I said, that's the reason we did July, so that Ruth Ann has enough time to take the old bracket down and possibly put the new, or not possibly, she has to, we're hoping maybe that old bracket will work. But if it doesn't, she has to have her guys put the new brackets up. So anyway, long story short, they're missing one of the decorations. You guys wanted me to get these ones here, and the one that they're missing is the 6-foot bright line double poinsettia. All three of these right now are in stock. And me, I'm trying to negotiate and say, you gotta make this right. I canceled another company. They were supposed to be here in July. Now we're going into September. So what they did was they cannot lower their price from what they gave us before, but they will upgrade us to the Dazzled collection, I believe it's called. It's the same bulbs. It has the garland around them. And the reason I stayed away from them in the beginning is they're about $100 more a piece. They have more of a shimmer. They're gonna really show nice during the daytime, and they show really good at nighttime. During the daytime, your other ones that are just the regular are probably not gonna show up, as well as the ones that are wrapped in the garland. What would take place of the poinsettia would be the gift box that I'm showing you here, and you can come by. All the ones that are marked in blue are the ones that I'm recommending that we get wrapped in the garland. If we were to get the ones in garland, $17,475. The pricing is right here, and that's even with the discount. We're paying $11,993. So for their mistake, and they're not having the 9 of the 1, and not getting them here in July or August, they have all of these in stock. The shimmery look, we get it for the same price. I have to let them know today. They will ship tomorrow, Friday, and we'll have them in 3 or 4 days.
I was really looking forward to the poinsettias.
Do you like red flowers? Because you've been moving a lot of them up there.
That was appearance.
They're very pretty. They're the upgrade. The other ones just have the bulb around them. These got the bulb, same amount of bulbs, everything. They're, like I said, they're gonna have more of a shimmer look. They're telling me that they're gonna make more of a wow factor than what we were getting for the same cost.
I think we should just trust you to make the decision.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
Everybody agree?
You're fine.
I like it.
Everybody agrees?
Yeah, okay. I mean, the book's up here and you can compare one to the other. They look nice, and I think that, well, if you look at these here and you go to the ones that have the garland and stuff around them, they look really, really nice. I'll order them tomorrow. Moving along. Today, that's right. The Land Bank House, refresh my memory, Rose. Yeah, it is today, I gotta get them done. The Land Bank House that was down there by,
The Old Pines Meat Market.
yeah, the Old Pines Meat Market, which we discussed it at other meetings. It was in the DDA property, I believe. The land bank tore it down, believe no charge. Roadies must be their contract or whatever. But we just wanted to show you some pictures of, I'm sure all of you remember what that place looked like. It's all cleared out of there, and Roadies did a great job.
Okay.
6001 Dixie Highway will close within 30 days. He finally got his financing. I've been with Jan Ferguson on the phone from the title company. That's the property next to the Chamber building that Jaeger has bought from us, and we should have something done in the next couple weeks. So that is a go. They're buying that, I forget those people's name again, it starts with an H. Who is it, Rose, help me?
I'm sorry, I was writing.
Next to the Chamber, what's that building, or name of the
Oh,
people?
Detman's.
Detman's, next to Detman's there.
So they are the young.
Yeah, Nat, or Mitchell got it, yeah, they got it.
Good.
It was brought to my attention that last year we had snow machines and ATVs, whatever, going across the bridge in the wintertime. And I just wanted to know what your guys' feelings were about that. I've talked to Tanya. There's a thing called the bollard post, and we already have a couple of them out there. They're black on the bottom. You can put them in, remove them, whatever. Tanya would have to get some pricing for us, but currently right now, a snow machine can go up and down and all over, and we haven't been maintaining it in the wintertime. The DDA, the bridge is the bridge, but do we want motorized vehicles going across that? Do we want her to look at what a price would be so that you would still have your walk path across the bridge, but it would block out any motorized vehicle? Or do we want to just put a sign up that says, no motorized vehicles in this area or whatever? Or do you want me to do nothing?
Or you want plows and it won't
Yeah.
have any snow to travel on.
So you do that with sidewalks as well?
Tanya?
I don't think it's time to send it here before we go in the gas.
I was gonna bring it up earlier, but
You were going to bring this up?
I was gonna bring up that we don't follow that area.
No,
We were
no,
talking sidewalks.
We talked before about leaving the snow on it, so that
But we could have carols sitting there at Christmas with all those boughs up there, and it would be really pretty.
Plow the bucking can.
But it's still open to cross-country skiing, and you'd leave the,
See, there's
I
so
don't know
much.
if anybody's using it for that. but
Yeah, there's.
I think that post would be a good idea, so.
The post would still allow a cross-country skier to go, a walker to go, and Tanya said we have to keep it handicap accessible, right? In
Well,
case-
because of the grant, it has to be
Yes.
open to the public at all times, and you have to meet handicap accessibility requirements, which means, certain widths.
So
So-
we'll get through that.
We don't know. We gotta figure out how wide the
Yeah.
snowmobile is.
Right now, your bridge is, I believe, before we put the handrail on, it was 16 foot wide, and there's one bollard in the middle now, so you have probably just a little less than 8 foot on each side of that bollard. I don't know.
So you need a couple of posts, don't you?
Yeah, probably. either end.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff, I think we need to go with some posts,
What's the width of
but
those?
we gotta make sure it's done properly for.
Well, we had it before and they cut the lock through the river.
They did?
Yeah.
Yeah, right after they were put in,
Oh.
but you replaced them, they haven't
Okay.
been.
Well, started stuttering. We replaced them with a non-breakable
Special law.
police lock or something.
Fences, but you know, like that walkway where you go through and it goes up. Like they got some pathways, when you walk the pathways.
Like a snow fence?
Well,
They're
they
in
got
like
them
a-
up all year round.
It's on the they had one on the Saginaw Valley Rail Trail, and they have one, if you drive up,
Oh,
Center Road north of McCarty, right where that path crosses the railroad tracks, there's a little maze gate thing that you have to go around.
Well,
So
I
you
guess
might be able to
Yes.
drive snowmobile.
Yeah, I don't know, I think you wanna do something that doesn't detract from the beauty. And,
I think the posts are probably the
Because
best.
the only thing is, you still got 4 foot and I asked around.
right, what's the width of the snowmobile?
What about the motor scooters,
Yeah.
because they go across all summer?
No, this would be only in winter time.
Yeah, all summer, you have the motorized scooters using.
Oh, that you have to, though, it's handy, it has to be
No,
handicapped.
it's not handicap.
You're talking about the
No,
little,
motorcycles.
Oh, motorcycle.
Snowmobiles can't legally get there anyway, because they'd have to go on the road.
I
Put the
watched
police
them,
out there.
I watched them go in there, so.
We'll come up with a
I know
couple
they
different
do.
options then. We'll come up with a couple options and present it at the next meeting. The last thing is DDA lunches. We spend $60 a month for the DDA lunches. We've been getting them from Candlelight ever since I can remember, 7, 8 years. They raised the price to $84 per month. I talked to Mike Houlihan from Subway, and 50% of his menu is between $5.50 and $6 for a foot-long sub. So, and his price will be, again, between that $5.50 and $6. So if we get 12 even at $60, we're still gonna save $24 a month. I can pick which ones, put lettuce and tomato on them, bring back, he said he'll even deliver them. Bring back different dressings, and then he'll also have a thing for olives and peppers and whatever, if you wanted to add some of that stuff on there at no additional charge. Now, currently, I think the wrap that we get, I think is a 6 or 8 inch wrap. Even if we took a foot-long sub and cut them in half, that's still 6 inches. You're getting to buy $3 a person. You know, I'm not trying to be cheap or anything here, but I'm watching.
I like Subway's cookies better than Candlelight.
That's no cookie though.
Oh.
That's just the sub.
Stand up, would you?
Jamie can bake cookies for us. Do you want me to explore that option with someone?
Did you specifically get a document from Candlelight that says they're raising their rate?
We did. Yeah. In our billing, I believe Tracy told me that there was a letter in there that we're going from $60 to $84.
What if you just called and said, we're not interested in, we'll go elsewhere? Do you want to just honor your original rate or just let it go?
You know what, I think it's time for me to call them up and say, we're gonna try something different. And I think with Mike buying the Burger King property and him moving his business and
I like
spread,
veggies anyway.
huh?
I like your veggie stuff better.
Yeah. So, the only thing is I just don't know if I get them and do 1 week, 1 month all cold cut and the other month this, or I don't wanna be taking people's orders either and make this a long drawn out process thing either, so.
What's your job?
Huh?
You answered up, John.
I'll give you this one, I want mine.
Did you hear him? Give it to me before. Hey, can we have fries with that? They don't sell fries at Subway.
Find out what they do with chips and cookies, you get chips and cookies in there too, so it might be the same price.
He won't do the chip, or the cookies, but as far as the chips, You know, we can buy both.
Or you can buy the cookies extra.
You don't need the cookies.
You can buy them
It's
extra.
not good for you.
I'm sure the 24 extra dollars, I could get probably cookies and chips, and you're getting a great big foot-long sub too, so you guys let me know what you want to do. I think it's time to move the monies around, and Subway has great quality food. Not that Candlelight don't, but let's move it,
I'll second that.
okay? I'm done.
Okay. Any more comments?
I'm good.
Audie?
I'm good. I'm good.
Nothing wrong here.
Okay.
I want fries with that.
Can do.
Thank you, everybody.
Should be an interesting winter to watch the snow. I understand we're expecting some in September,
Yep.
Why? Yesterday.
Yeah.
and we're expecting winters as cold as we did last year.
And more than that.
Karen's gonna plow all our sidewalks for us.
Did somebody make a motion?
I don't
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, we need support.
Support.
In favor, aye?
Aye.